Hi guys, welcome to Westminster. Michael Heaver here for a very special broadcast. We've got Gerry Gunster, US political strategist, here in the studio today, taking your questions on President Trump, on American politics, anything you want to ask. We're going to do it right now. And I just want to dig in, first of all, Gerry, what's your overall sort of outlook right now on US politics, on President Trump?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think the president is actually doing really well. This is a man who came in and said that he had a number of goals that he wanted to accomplish, and he's getting it done. And I think that he is correct in saying that he has been one of the more successful presidents that we've had in a long time. He has a knock list of things that he wants to get done. His signature moment had to be getting tax reform through Congress. That was not an easy task. He had a lot of opposition to do that. He's made some bold statements and some bold decisions. For example, moving the embassy to Jerusalem really was something he felt strongly he needed to do. So I would say that the president is on the right track right now. I think he's in the right place. He's doing a good job.
Okay, I mean, just on the British side of it, obviously you advised Leave.eu as well. You're involved in that campaign. But how do you see Brexit Britain and President Trump, how do you see that relationship evolving? Do you think it's in a good place right now?
Well, you look at Brexit and then the Trump movement. These things were pretty remarkable moments in history. It started with Brexit and then it moved over into America. And, the president is a big fan of the United Kingdom. He's got roots in Scotland. He's got a lot of friends over here, like Nigel Farage and others. And he wants to have the special relationship, much like President Reagan and Thatcher had many decades ago.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, guys, ask your questions, fire away. But we're looking at this story now. We've got it up on westminster.com. We did this back in January. Actually, Trump talking about a tremendous increase in US-UK trade with Theresa May there. For us Brits, I think this is a great sign.
Yeah.
I mean, how likely do you think it is? Do you think we're on the right track? What's the feeling in DC? Do you think we're on the right track for a good trade that Brexit Britain needs?
Well, the Washington, D.C. political and issues that are happening right now are very complicated, and there's a lot on the table. And trade is going to come. It's going to happen. But as I said earlier, the president has a big fondness for the United Kingdom with his roots in Scotland, and I would say that the chances of getting some kind of trade deal between the U.S. and the U.K. Are getting better and better as time goes on. And he's got 3 more years left in this cycle. He recently announced that Brad Parscale is going to be his campaign manager for 2020, and that says to me, and it ought to say to everybody, that he's running again. So there's time to get this done between the UK and the US.
Do you know much about the campaign manager? Do you know him well?
I do. Yeah. I know Brad Parscale. I know him well. He's an extremely qualified individual to do this. He built an impressive social media and digital campaign for the president when he was running, and he's the right choice. He's the right choice for President Trump to bring this home in 2020.
Okay, guys, if you're enjoying what we're doing, if you're enjoying this, please dive in with your questions. Give us a like, give us a retweet, dive in and get involved. Remember, go and visit westminster.com for all the latest. Now, I'm just going to bring up a tweet now that President Trump tweeted back on the 3rd of March. He actually talking about the European Union. He tweeted, if the EU wants to further increase their already massive tariffs and barriers on US companies doing business there, we will simply apply a tax on their cars which freely pour into the US. They will make it impossible for our cars and more to sell their big trade imbalance. Now, I think this is a bit of a new dynamic, isn't it? To have the European Union faced with a president of this nature. I mean, where do you think this leads?
Well, look, this president has dug in on this tax tariff, on this tariff, and I don't see him moving. Now, what is probably a mistake is to take him on and suggest that, well, if you're going to put these tariffs up, then we're going to do the same thing with your bourbon or your Levi jeans. This does nothing but make this president angrier, and it makes the president want to dig in deeper on his position. So, and you've heard, you hear that the EU has its own tariffs and its own
protectionist
thing. So, I think we have to be careful about what we're doing, what they're saying, and having having this go both ways.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've got Linda, thank you very much for your comment, Linda, on Facebook saying, I agreed with his trade sanctions, he's protecting his country, isn't that good? I mean, do you think that's the view that Americans will take in terms of his stance on the European?
Well, it is his stance. Make America Great was the president's campaign slogan, is exactly what he believes. And the aluminum and the steel and the coal industry in the United States of America has been suffering for some time. And if this is one of the options on the table to bring some of these jobs back to the country, then he's doing exactly what he said he's going to do. So yes, he is protecting American jobs, and that is the role that the President of the United States should be doing.
We've got a comment here on Twitter, thank you very much for your comment, from Old Bald Gooner, which is a bit of an interesting one, saying Trump has shook up the political world like Maggie did. The left, Margaret Thatcher of course, the left can't deal with him, and that's great. Do you think, how's the left in America reacting? How are the opponents of Trump reacting? We've got a lot of Ramonas over here in this country that can't go with the Brexit vote. I guess you've got the same thing in America, right?
Well, they're reacting. Their reaction is this: they're shocked. They're shocked because this is a politician that said he was going to get things done, and people on the left seem to be surprised when he actually does it. And I believe that on the left side, and particularly the Democratic Party right now, they're absolutely rudderless. I mean, their leadership is Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. And if you were to ask me who would take on the president in the next general election, I do not have the answer. And frankly, I don't think that the Democratic Party has the answer either.
Now, speaking about fulfilling pledges, the wall, we heard a lot about it during the campaign. I think it was, migration around the world at the moment, strong border controls is something that, whether in Europe, whether in America, people are rallying behind. They want stronger borders. How is that going in America, this whole building a wall?
Well, the budget process in America, probably much like in the EU and the UK, is very complicated. I know that, we don't know this, he's got $23 billion request in the budget for border security. He has put out requests for proposals. He was down on the border just last week looking at 4 prototypes, and that's where we are with it. The negotiations that are going on about the border are now tied into other issues. So there's some wheeling and dealing that's going to go on before we can actually see some construction on the border wall. But again, this man has time to get this done, and I believe that this wall is going to happen under this president.
Well, some interesting comments as ever from you guys. Thank you very much. Do keep them coming. If you're enjoying this broadcast, do give us a like. Westmonster trying to bring you politics live and direct and interactive. Just a few comments now I'll read out from Facebook. David Rendell, obviously a fan, saying build the wall. So he wants to say it. Carrie Ann saying Democratic Party is in disarray. Paul asking, can we loan Donald? Could we possibly get him for a few months, I guess, and so sort things out over here? Yeah, Alison agreeing with that and saying we need our own Donald here in the UK as well. And yeah, I think Paul as well saying the EU is far more protectionist than anyone else out there.
Correct.
The US should have a fair deal. So very interesting. One of the things I was going to talk about, we've also seen some support for people saying Trump should come over here. We did a story on Westmonster.com actually highlighting this. There was a poll done, and basically it showed you that support for a state visit from Trump has gone from its lowest level in early December, 31% in favour, to its highest level in a year, with 45% in favour and only 39% opposed. So that equates to a 14% surge since December.
To have him come here.
To have him come here. And I think, things like the Piers Morgan interview, I think a lot, from my personal perspective, a lot of things over here with Trump, it's like people hear things, they see reports, they don't actually sometimes watch the speeches themselves, and obviously things get spun. I mean, what's your thought? Do you think a state visit is on the cards? Do you think that's something that would be a priority?
Boy, I would hope so. I would hope so. I mean, whether you like President Trump or you do not like the president, he is the leader of America, and he should be given the respect that he deserves, and he should come to the United Kingdom. I would imagine that every president, at least in my lifetime, has spent time over here on multiple trips, and I would hope that the man is given the respect that is due to him as the leader of America, and have him come here and do a state visit and do it properly.
Or Helen agrees on Facebook again, saying, I admire his passion for his country. You can come for tea in my hometown in Scotland anytime. So that's one cheeky little invite sent in there. Certainly think one of the big issues that people, when they think about America, it's the whole gun control issue. You know, we've seen a number of these horrific shootings, mass shootings. I mean, where are we with that? What's your perspective on where we're going with that under President Trump?
There's going to be a change in gun control, and there has to be. It is a scar on America. It is an embarrassment that these things continue to happen at the school level. And I think the president is going to do something about this, and it hasn't left the radar screen. You see these things happen, they come, and then they go. But I think in this particular case, after this last Florida issue, the president is very much anxious to get something done. He has made some interesting comments about the National Rifle Association and his desire to try to get beyond the politics of the NRA. But there are Americans that are very serious about the Second Amendment. Yeah. They believe that it is their right to have guns. Whether or not they should be carrying around assault weapons is a completely different sort of topic here. But I do believe that something will get done on guns.
You do? Okay, very interesting. I mean, in terms of the midterm elections, what's the outlook there? I mean, President Trump, obviously, we saw the tax reform that went through. That was huge. What do you think the current feeling is in terms of the party political support across the country? How are we looking going into those midterms?
Well, going into the midterms, you know, there's only been a couple of times in history where a president has actually picked up seats. FDR did it. Yeah. President Bush did it. That was right after 9/11. So history's not on the president's side here, and it's unlikely that he's going to hold on to all of these seats. I would say that the Senate itself is in a pretty comfortable position, but the House of Representatives, it's very likely that the House will change.
Okay, it'll be very interesting. I mean, we've got a number of comments coming in here. Certainly a lot of talk about the Second Amendment. Yes. A lot of people commenting about the wall. I certainly think in terms of the UK, one of the big Trump policies that's popular over here is this idea of the travel ban in terms of stronger borders and the wall. Yeah. I mean, do you think that Trump is really winning support for? Is he sort of implementing that as people want at the moment? Is there outcry about it? Are people generally satisfied with his approach? They see. I know some people like Ann Coulter want to see it happen a lot quicker. Yeah. I mean, that was obviously a big plank. The sort of border side of it. Yeah, is that something that people at the moment are seeing progress with? Are they happy? Are they getting?
You know, I haven't seen the statistics, but I have heard the president talk about it, that some of the immigration numbers are in fact down since he has become president of the United States. Yeah. But if you look, and I do a lot of polling, a lot of research in the United States, and if you look at that data, you know, there's a number of issues that are very important to Americans, and in that bucket of the top 5, you will see immigration.
Okay. Yeah. That'll be interesting to see. I mean, by the way, guys, if you're enjoying this, do give us a like, do give us a retweet, do visit westmonster.com and keep your questions and comments coming in. I just want to go to a Nigel Farage tweet from earlier. Very interesting, just before we went on the air, talking about how this is a great victory for the President of the United States. The threat of fire and fury has worked. Basically, a Bloomberg story starts off, North Korea is willing to give up its nuclear weapons if the safety of Kim Jong-un's regime is guaranteed, South Korea said. Very interesting. Yeah. I mean, I'm someone that spoke about...
Put that headline up on the screen now.
We've got
your viewers to see that.
Yeah, I'll ping over. So we've got the whole idea of Trump diplomacy. Some have been quite dismissive of it. But I think it's a real, I think it's a real sign of influence that with North Korea, that you're seeing this shift now. Obviously under Obama, under Bush, North Korea developing nuclear weapons. We're now in a position, they're seemingly in a position of weakness. Yeah. And you've got President Trump has obviously made a number of tweets and spoken a lot about Kim Jong-un, that regime and what they're doing. And now you're seeing this shift where South Korea, there we go, we've got it up on the screen. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. We got the story there. North Korea floats giving up nukes. Yeah, floats giving up nukes in move towards US talks. North Korea willing to give up nuclear weapons if the safety of Kim Jong-un's regime is guaranteed, South Korea said, boosting the pressure on the US to agree to peace talks. As I said, I think Trump diplomacy is something, when I've said it at times, people have sort of, oh, don't be ridiculous, he's just a loudmouth that goes on Twitter. Actually, is this not a signal that we're living in a new world now? Or actually,
we are. I mean, it's a new approach towards diplomacy. There's no question about it. But there seems to have been some sort of change just prior to the Olympics and then past the Olympics about the position coming out of North Korea. So you have to give some credit here to him for being able to have some kind of shift in this conversation. Whether or not it holds or not is sort of yet to be decided. But it's a different approach. It's harder. It's more real than any president that I have seen in my lifetime. But if it does seem to have cooled off a bit, hasn't it?
Yeah. Just finally, guys, any more questions you've got, any more comments you've got, do throw them in there. I just want to ask you, Gerry, obviously someone with a lot of knowledge about US politics. I mean, is there anything we should be looking out for, do you think, in the coming years in terms of what Trump's doing and in terms of the direction, aside from President Trump, perhaps, the general direction of the political feeling in America? Where is America heading? Is there anything that we really should be looking out for in the coming years?
Well, I think that where the country is headed, and we're seeing this in the stock market in particular, is that I believe that there's a lot more optimism in the country than there has been in a while. And optimism because there are more jobs, the economy is doing quite well, the stock market has had its up and downs, but for the most part, it has been up. So it's an optimistic feeling, at least in the circles that I am in. And that's, I mean, the tariff issue has sort of shocked us a little bit. But again, it's all about protecting American jobs. Politically, where the country is headed, I'll repeat what I said earlier. I mean, the Democrats are rudderless. Yeah. And so as long as they can't get out of their own way, it seems to me that the Republicans are going to continue to do quite well. Congress on the House side could flip to Democrats, but the Senate is unlikely to flip. And I would say that if the election were held today, President Trump would be elected again.
I mean, it seems to me we had Hillary Clinton over here, and of course she got wall-to-wall coverage with her whinge-a-thon about why it wasn't her fault and everything else. I mean, it seems to me and to folks over here, tell me if I'm wrong, that basically they're still blaming Russia. They won't accept that Donald Trump's policies are actually popular, and they're still in this sort of state of denial because they actually have no policy response to Trump. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, the Russia issue, it has now been a year and a half since President Trump was elected, and the Russia piece continues.
We've had it here as well, by the way.
Oh yes, we've had it here. You've had it here as well. That Russia story seems to just be continually being fed through a lot of the mainstream media. They want to keep this story very much alive. It is probably without doubt that the Russians were, quote unquote, meddling in the election. To what extent, though, is something that people need to look at a little bit closer. It was digital, it was social media. But the idea that President Trump colluded with the Russians is just absurd. But it is people that continue to look to find a way to knock the president down and try to find excuses for why he won.
Interesting comment here from Sandra saying, Twitter is the only way he can get his words to the people because most of the news media won't tell the truth to what he has said. I mean, for me, President Trump has sort of reinvented. I mean, he's a complete trailblazer in the utilization of social media messaging. I mean, how has that affected the overall media landscape in America in terms of, I don't know, trust in media? I mean, CNN gets a hell of a lot of stick. Paul Joseph Watson just did a video on them. Certainly I pick up a lot of anger, actually, towards the mainstream media in the way that they've been so relentlessly negative about President Trump, during the campaign, and all the rest of it. Is this actually the issue that's causing increasing distrust in the media amongst the American public?
President Trump's use of social media, and particularly on Twitter, it changes the discussion on a daily basis. People wake up to see what it is that he has put into his Twitter feed. It is something that is necessary because the media in the United States has become very polarized. It's become very divided. And in order for him to tell Americans directly what's going on, he has decided to use Twitter. And it really is, it's innovative, it's new, and it is his way of saying, I'm going to go directly to the people that voted for me. I don't need to go through the traditional channels that presidents have gone through before, which is TV and radio and print and all these other places. Just going to go right to the people. And it's astonishing how many people follow this man and react to his Twitter.
Well, the world has changed. I mean, we at Westminster obviously utilise Twitter, Facebook, YouTube.
Yes.
We're very grateful. We're very grateful for you guys for joining us. Very grateful for Gerry
Oh,
for
you
joining us
bet.
today.
You bet. It's been enjoyable.
Absolutely. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you've enjoyed this, as I say, give us a like, give us a retweet. We're back for Uncensored on Friday, 1 o'clock UK time. We will see you then.
Okay, thank you.